and to say that what we must do now to rescue ourselves from this madness that has lasted 114 years already is what NINAS set out by way of that constitutional force majeure after 20 years of hard work at home and abroad. Please bring that 5-step, bring the graphic in blue. What NINAS did was to organize an alliance of all of those who are suffering this torment. And we put up a 5-step, movement to going from where we are now to where we need to be. We created yes, I see it now. What you see here is we created the consensus at the base, the consensus against that constitution. We launched out an enforcement mechanism in the second stage. That was in 2020, the force majeure. Where we are now to enter the third step of transition, during which we'll sort out this matter, is where we are. We have completed stage 1 and stage 2. If the people listening to us in this meeting will understand what needs to be done, just to say that they cannot proceed to any further election under this constitution, that there must be transition for union reconstruction now, and that if we are not willing to do even that the union is at an end, because in the remedy that is available to me now under this UN instrument, I want you to take a close look. I'm not telling you conjecture. I'm telling you what has been done. That is what we have done across the last 20 years. The document you see in my hand here, United Nations Declaration on the Rights of Indigenous People, it was under this document that Scotland went to referendum the other day. It was under this instrument that 5 countries have become free since we got that document out from the UN. And we do our sovereignty resides with us. That is, our land and our people can be by this instrument. If you only need to be a distinct nationality in your ancestral space in order to be allowed to live alone by yourself in peace in that space. If anybody wants to be in union with you, it doesn't matter how the union began in 1914. This instrument that came in 2007 says that you are entitled to be there by yourself, and if anybody wants to unionize with you, it has to be by your agreement. If you don't agree, the person has to dress back. That's where we are. That's the right we have now to exercise. And that's why we are insisting that those who are operating Nigeria under this fraud of 1999 must now come down from their high horse. We are not begging them at all. We don't even have to meet with them. The owners of the sovereignty, according to the map that we have made out of the delineations, Yoruba have their charter as we speak with you. In the lower Niger, please bring that map. All the nationalities are entitled to their self-determination. Their land is their land. They don't need to live with anybody. But what, in order to avoid making up 300 countries, we have also gotten to the nationality to sit down among themselves, and they have charters. No, starting with this one. What you see here, let's even start with this one before we go to the further divisions. What you see in green is the ones that have embraced Sharia and gone their way. What you see in blue is the Yoruba, including the ones of Kogi and Kwara in Yoruba bloc, Yoruba land. That is the group entitled to this self-determination that this instrument offers them. And there's nothing standing between them and exercising that self-determination today, other than this fraud which was defeated. And so the one in brown is the one in purple is the middle belt. The thief, the Berom, all the people being slaughtered from Benue to Southern Kaduna to Jos and everywhere in between. That is the one in purple. They are part of this alliance, like you can see in the NINAS map that you are seeing all the while. There are constitutions behind all of these three you see. And the alliance of NINAS is Nigeria minus the ones that have succeeded to do Sharia. If you go back to the lower Niger, so that people can understand that nobody is coming to invade the other, go back to that lower Niger map of 1885. This portion in brown is the former Midwestern region and Eastern region put together. What you see here is the map of 1885 that predated 1914. You see the Igbo at the center. You see the Ijo. You may have to bring the other one. Bring the one in color. Now, the portion in yellow is the Ijo territory, contiguous, covering Bayelsa, Rivers, Ondo, all the way to Akwa Ibom, and all of the portions that go into Edo and Delta. That is Ijo in yellow there. The one in brown is what became Akwa Ibom. The groups Anang and all of them. The one in green is the Igbo across the Niger Delta, across the Niger. That's Delta State. The ones in Rivers, you could see all the way heading into Bonny. Today they are called River State. They are called Delta State. They are called Edo State. Ibanke is Ibanke. It's now in Edo State. You can see the portion that goes into the other lighter yellow, lighter green, that is Edo. So this map you see here is the ethno-linguistic map of the Lower Niger. That is the people as they organize themselves according to their ethnicity before the British lumped them together with the rest of them. And so as we speak, from the Solomon Assembly we had in Port Harcourt in 2015, these 6 blocks you see, of course, the Ishekiri, the Isoko, the Ogoni, all of them fit into one part or the other. And by their own volition, they have been discussing with their brethren on how to make out a constitution that will give them what Nigeria refused to give to them, the right to self-determination. Their land belongs to them. Their assets belong to them. Everything that they want to have and make for themselves in their space belong to them under this UN instrument. So the charter that will become constitution, federating constitution for them, has already been done. Only remain, that is in process, only remains to be ratified by further open discussions for those who are not involved from the time it was started. As it is for this one, so it is for the Middle Belt, the Tiv, the Berong, the Skataf, the Idoma, and all of them. They have their charter as I speak with you, with a map that spells out their boundaries, their territories in that entire. So Yoruba is one language. These ones that are more than one language have done their. These are the blocks that will then come to any discussion that will become constitution for Nigeria. If Nigeria does not, if those who sit in Abuja and the state capitals pointing guns at all of us, if they do not come down from their high horse to embrace the transition to discuss this matter, I tell you, under this instrument of the UN, in the face of the constitution that is a fraud, the union will be dissolved without any meeting, and nobody is going to be able to fire one shot at anybody because nobody will come from any of these 3 blocks on account of the alliance we have built to go to fire, unlike what happened in 1967, where everybody ganged up and it became a let's go and beat down the Igbo. We have gone past all of that. Now, what exactly do we have to do right now? That 5-point proposition of Ninas, this is where I'll be landing now and rounding up. The 5-point proposition of Ninas is to say to all of us must now join in saying that Ninas is right. Our union is distressed because the constitution that brought us together has been toppled and replaced by the brigandage of those who are now holding us hostage and trying to kill us off to take our land. That's what Yoruba is saying now by the Yoruba nation you see. That's what the Ijaw has been saying in the agitation for resource control you saw. That's what the Biafra movement, the Biafra campaign has been all about in the Biafra flag you saw. And so all of us must now must join in saying, the 5 points at the point 1 says that there must be an acknowledgement of this union dispute that we declared since 2020 by way of that force majeure. Acknowledgement. What does that mean? That all the agitations in the land, all the misery in the land is flowing from the inverted constitutional arrangement we put in place by brigandage. Once that acknowledgement is made, we come to item 2 that says a commitment. It is the government of Nigeria that the peoples of Nigeria are now the owners of the enterprise called Nigeria, are the ones insisting that those who are in government house today must now come to acknowledge that there is a dispute around the union, that dispute had to be resolved by the complete decommissioning of that constitution. That's the number 2 of that. That 5-point demand is actually one transitioning proposition for union reconstruction. A single transitioning proposition for union reconstruction. Why we broke it down into 5 parts is to ascertain to everybody's seeing what has to be, what is wrong, what has to be done, who will do it, when it will be done, and how. There's no other proposition. Those talking about 2014, if you ask them on which day would this thing be done, no idea. Who will do what? They point to National Assembly that has no jurisdiction on the matter. When can it now be done? No idea. We'll go and convince National Assembly. All kinds of confused thoughts. And so, item 1, the government of Nigeria must now accept that there's a disputed constitutional arrangement and the dispute has been formally declared, and that constitution must be decommissioned wholesale. That's item 2. Item 3 is that no further national elections. We're only demanding a commitment right now. We have had the first 2. The third one is that no further national elections will happen under the 1999 Constitution. Just like South Africa did to get itself out of apartheid in 1990, after 80 years from 1910. It took Mandela, Oliver Tambo, Governor Mbeki, Winnie Mandela, Walter Sisulu, and the rest of them doing exactly the kind of thing we're doing now to topple the apartheid constitution, to recover the sovereignty of the blacks and their land. And the pressure that everybody now joined in mounting was what made Frederick de Klerk to make the announcement he made in 1990 to say that this apartheid constitution cannot carry us any further. We must now go to a meeting, a transition in which the owners of the land will be on the table to decide how. When we finish, we go to referendum and then go to election. It's that thing that South Africa did in 1990 is the last chance Nigeria has now to rescue anything from the failed Lugadian experiment of 1914. More than 75–80% of people you call Nigerians have long departed from your Nigeria, defined by this constitution of death. And so we come to item 4. Item 3 is the commitment that no further elections will happen under this constitution. Why do we say so? We've been discussing this matter since January of 1967. Since we went to Aburi, was it not what we went to go to discuss in Aburi? How we live together in peace in this union? We came back from Aburi. Yakubu Gowon and his civil servants, aided by the Caliphate of Murtala Muhammad, abandoned the outcome of Aburi and began to kill 3.5 million people, starving 2 million children to death. I was born in the midst of, I wasn't yet born. For young people listening to this presentation, I was not yet born on the day of the first coup. I was not yet born on the day of the second coup. I was born in the middle of the killings that followed the second coup. At the end of the killings in 1970, I was only 3 years old. So let young people not say that these things happened when we were not born. But how come I'm the one explaining to those who went to Lancaster House, including all? How come we were the ones showing them what happened in 1914, what happened in 1858, what happened all the way to where it became constitution across those many years? So I'm just informing us that we have now to say no further, that will be what we have to insist on, that no further national elections will be tolerated. We've tolerated 5, in fact 6, since 1999. Has our life improved?
No.
In any form?
No.
Has it not degenerated enough?
No.
And it is that constitution that is the guarantee that it will degenerate much further. So the church leaders in Nigeria that go to canvass for PVC, for people to go and vote, the political parties in Nigeria that lure people into election under this constitution that tie us down as slaves to the Fulani, that endanger us to be killed and our lands taken. That is that constitution and the people who are prepared to govern by it, to contest the election under it. Our task now is to insist that we cannot proceed to any further national elections under this constitution. This is 2024. The next election they are trying to get us to is in 2027. The Fulani have not slowed down in the killings they are doing to try to conquer us. If they overrun us before that 2027, it will be because of our own foolishness. Now to item 4, which is the high point of everything. It is in that item 4 that we demand that there will be a 2-stage procedure by which this matter will be resolved. In the first stage, we must now identify those we the people. This 5-point proposition are meant to address those 3 things I showed you at that preamble. We must now, in that item 4, identify who the we the people are that are going to federate. Yoruba on Yoruba land, Ijo in Ijo land, Tiv in Tiv land, Edo in Edo land, Igbo in Igbo land. We have to identify them in that capacity as the owners of the land that now wish to federate. In the second layer, they will come with their charters, which they have already made that I can report to you. You may not know. They will come with their charters in the second layer to do the kind of thing they did in Lancaster House in 1959, to say Yoruba country that could go away today in 2024. Now want to discuss with the lower Nile, the eastern side, and the middle belt. If the people doing Sharia, the Hausa, for your information, for the information of this audience, the Hausa that is now telling Fulani to dress back from their land, I tell you, Ninas admitted them into observer status in 2020, into this. They are indigenous people. Uthman Danfodio and his fellow marauders overran them, have been sitting on their land, presenting themselves as Hausa Fulani. There's no Hausa Fulani. Hausa owns Hausa land, like Ijo owns Ijo land. Yoruba owns Yoruba land. And under this same instrument of the UN, under this same constitution that have been defeated, the Hausa is entitled, and all the other nationalities in that yellow belt, all the way to Kanuri, they're entitled to their land. Nigeria, defined by this constitution, is dead and gone. And so we are dealing with this to let you know that nobody can mobilize anybody to go and stand the way of any other person who wants to live now.
Right.
Hausa will not participate in shooting anybody anywhere if the quarrel is that Nigeria is not working, because they're also in that, so that item 4, your sovereignty that was taken since 1914, the only opportunity you have in this lifetime is to collapse this 1999 constitution before it's too late. So that under that item 4, in that 2-stage procedure, you will be identified as the owner of your land. You will now go and discuss with the other people in the second layer. That was what Bola Ige was saying when he said that Nigeria must now ask those who are trapped here whether they want to continue to federate. And if they say yes, it is only by a referendum that yes can be said, that they will then go to define the terms by themselves, not the one Murtala, the butcher of Asaba, Murtala Mohammed, defined for us. That's what we're still living in. This constitution you have here was dictated by that butcher of Asaba, Murtala Mohammed. Obasanjo, the head slave, helped them to process it in 1979. They brought him from prison in 1999 to come to reinforce it. And he began to fight the people who were trying to solve the problem. He went on national TV to say we were committing treason if we were to call a meeting of the owners of Nigeria. And so that is item 4. That is where your land, that is where your sovereignty is hiding. If we insist today, item 5 is just the announcement that will say item 1, 2, 3, 4 from the mouth of the federal clerk of today. Whoever is presiding over Nigeria, in that item 5, must announce a time-bound transition for the reconfiguration of the union, according to those items 1, 2, 3, 4. That announcement only has to say, we now accept that this constitution is the problem, is what has brought Nigeria to this catastrophe we live in. That constitution has to be decommissioned wholesale. That will not go to another election under this constitution, including 2027. That it will be a 2-stage procedure in which the owners of the sovereignty will, in the first layer, do what they have to do to agree among themselves and come in the second layer to federate with other people. When we were campaigning to stop the election of 2023 and our people refused to listen to us, it was because we wanted to, we were inviting our people to reject further national elections, because the winner of any election will swear to defend and uphold the constitution that make you slave. If you go to that election that they're advertising under this constitution, you are the one now voting, you are the one now reinforcing your enslavement. You have reinforced it in 1999, in 2003, in 2011, in 2015, in 2019, in 2023. Has your life improved?
No.
Why, with all the education we have, can't we slow down and stop in our stupidity to say we cannot proceed to another election under the constitution that guarantee our damnation? And so the strategy that Ninas had in mind, which we can now enforce, is this domino 2 you see here. The first pillar is election. The union of death is at the extreme left. The constitution that creates that union of death is at the middle. The election that renews the life of that constitution every 4 years is the one we have to now tackle. That's the one we can touch. That's the one we can insist on. That's the one we can do by ourselves without waiting for government. To tell the political parties that they will not be allowed to drive us to another election under this constitution. And the time to tell them that is now. So what Ninas is inviting the organizers, the conveners, and all of those who may listen to this presentation to do right now in May of 2024 is to say that
transition now.
Nigeria must now go to transition for union reconfiguration according to the 5-point proposition of Ninas. All of us are Ninas, Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination. Bring the emblem again. Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination. Anybody who is being slaughtered by Fulani, whether it's in Ekiti, or it's in Southern Kaduna, or it's in TV land, you are an indigenous nationality. The only people who are not indigenous to Nigeria are the Fulani doing the killings across the length and breadth of Nigeria. Is it rocket science?
No.
That since God has caused them to make a mistake, to put our signature on the only title deed by which they enter our space, by which they control all the guns, by which they control all our economic assets, this is their title deed. But they put our signature in it. They didn't plan to let us know.
No.
It was because God wanted to save us that he caused them to print that decree number 24. I was talking about subsection 1.3 that
we must end this fraud. Oh, wow. This has gone long enough. We must end this fraud by learning what is happening to us, learning the kind of power that we have to end this mess, to demand for transition now. Our brother has done a stellar job in explaining this thing over and over again. Please continue to share this video. You can see that in the social media, the people that want us to remain in bondage, they're doing their biddings. But you, brothers and sisters, can share this.
Sorry, something disrupted the power source.
Of course.
Am I still coming through?
Yes.
Yes, please.
Yes, I'm done now. What Ninas is inviting all of those who are listening to this at this moment to do is to go out there. All the materials we need are already in place.
Share the information.
What needs to be done is for those who are going to wake up all that. We're talking about death of millions of people. If the Fulani and their willing tools from amongst us, all of those from us, the South and Middle Belt of Nigeria, including the South and Middle Belt Elders or Leadership Forum, we built an alliance of the South and Middle Belt to isolate our tormentors, the caliphate, to get down to this, truncating the constitution that empowered them. This Elders Forum decided to use that same alliance. They didn't go with us all the years we were going from the Tiv to the Berom to the Yoruba to the Jukun. They did not. They were just going from election to election, sharing the benefit of winning the election. Then when we had built this alliance to stop the journey to election and enforce the collapse of that constitution and the recovery of our sovereignty, they now decided to present themselves to the people as their leaders who want to bring a better person to come and lead them as president.
How?
If Peter Obi becomes president, just like Tinubu is president today, this constitution remains in place. Okay. The 36 states will remain in place. That preamble remains in place. The 68 items of exclusive list remains in place. The provisions that create corruption and guarantee immunity for the beneficiaries of corruption will remain in place. The president, like we have seen in that memo and article illustration, the president has no right to add one alphabet or subtract one alphabet from the constitution. And so, on what basis will you now suggest that it is leadership or corruption that is the problem? The constitution has shown you the sections that are responsible for the corruption we see. I've shown you that election that is on exclusive list is the reason you get all of what you get from INEC every 4 years. Because it's not you electing who will govern you. It is whoever they impose on you. You saw what happened in Imo State. That the man who came forth in the election was imposed on Imo people. He's still there. Oh, you go to the Supreme Court, they do exactly what they did in the one of 2023 presidential election. And so we are not anarchists. Our quarrel is not with the people in government house. For those who may ask, hey, what of anarchy? There's no anarchy anywhere. All of us can insist. If we stand up and do what needs to be done now, to insist that we must go to transition now to solve this union dispute that have been outstanding since 1967. The government is our employee. We are the owners of Nigeria. The nationalities are the owners of the enterprise. The constitution by which the employees, the government, toppled their ownership has been toppled. And so we are back to where everybody has their sovereignty on the table to take away. If you do not take your sovereignty now, Fulani is coming upon you to take that land and kill you off. If because they've not come to your community, you think it's not happening, go and ask those in Southern Kaduna, go and ask those in these several scores of communities that have been overrun in Plateau today. Go and ask those in Benue what is happening in their space. It's coming everywhere. You saw them in Ekiti, you saw them in Ibadan, you saw them in Bayelsa, you saw them in Cross River the other day. They have encircled us, the guns are in their hands, but we're in a position to stop them. Whether it is the corruption we see, whether it's the killings we see, the only thing that can get to all of those things at the same time is that this constitution that enables all those things are taken out. And we only need to say transition now in rejection of that constitution. Except we are lying to ourselves that we reject that constitution of master and servant. If we are serious, we must now step out from our comfort zones to say that we reject this constitution as basis of union. We insist on transition now for union reconfiguration, according to the 5-point proposition of the Nigerian Indigenous Nationalities Alliance for Self-Determination. If we do that, it won't take us more than 3 months to get to where we permanently terminate this enslavement that has lasted for so long, since 1914. We have never been in charge of what happens in our space. I think I'll stop here. Thank you for listening.
Whoa.
Wow. Brethren, may I ask that we all unmute, and at your various locations, let's give Mr. Tony Nandi a wonderful round of applause and a big God bless you.
Wow. Bless you for your courage. Amen and amen.
Well done. Thank you very much, sir. Mr. Tony Nadi, for that powerful and wonderful presentation. God bless you. Thank you. I can see